Hare Krishna, hope you are doing well. Let's get started with this probability computation question, and it's going to deal with uniform distributions. You will see how the domain of the distributions also plays a role and how it connects with law of total probability. Let's get started. Okay, starting with theory. Now, u1 plus u2, even though u1 and u2 themselves are very simple distributions, but adding them up and then also bringing a third random variable, that makes things complex. But we can use theory and intuition over here to simplify things. And over here, when we have complex probabilities, law of total probability often helps if we can find a variable which is helping us partition things. In this case, that random variable is x. X takes three values, right? It's going to take three values. Binomial distribution of 2, 0.5, which means it will take values 0, 1, and 2 with positive probability. And that is what we can condition on. These three values that x takes with positive probability. And once we do that, we can also break the intersection into conditional probability multiplied by the corresponding marginal so that it becomes simpler. So we started with three variables in one setup. Now we have over here actually two variables and a constant, because x is conditioned to take a constant value multiplied by a probability which should be easy to compute because binomial distribution is a standard distribution. Okay, so this is what we have. Now, here we can do things intuitively as well, because essentially we now have three sets of things to compute based on the value 0, 1, and 2 which x takes. So we also need to find these probabilities, right? Now, very logically, here is where the domain of the distribution plays a role. See, u1 and u2 are both uniform 0, 1 variables. So both start taking values from 0. So their sum will also start taking values from 0. So this thing has to be 1. And this thing will be 0 because the maximum value that the addition of these two, u1 and u2 can take will be restricted by the sum of the maximum value that the individual can take, which is 1 plus 1, so 2. It cannot take more than 2. So this is 1, this is 0. Good. Another thing, this thing, it doesn't require integration or anything. It just requires us to note the properties of distribution. So it is important to know that when you have a uniform distribution, it is equivalent to 1 minus itself. The intuition is that, see, uniform distribution takes values between 0 and 1 with equal probability, right? And so when you are taking, you are subtracting the value from 1, say this is a value x, and you're subtracting it from 1, again it will lie in the 0 to 1 interval only. So it's just a reverse mapping of the entire setup, reverse mapping, so with equal probability. That's what's happening. So you just tweak this probability to be this, then you notice the similarity in distribution, and then because it's identical, continuous identical distributions, you can keep this thing in mind. If you have two continuous identical distributions, think about equality. Why should one be more than the other? So both should be given fair chance. So the probability that one is more than the other should be fairly 50%. That is how I kept it in mind. And now coming to values for probabilities of x, we use the binomial distribution uh, formula to go about it and compute them. Once we have all the values we need over here, we simply plug them in. This corresponds to x being 0, this corresponds to x being 1, this corresponds to x being 2, and we get the answer. That's it. So it's maybe slightly lengthy, maybe lengthy because steps have been written over here for you to see, but in exam it shouldn't take this much time. Actually, once you notice this thing, it should be, and this distribution hack, it should be straightforward. That's it. Hare Krishna. And going beyond the syllabus again, till now, we saw the depression of Arjun and how it can draw parallel to the depression of students with respect to facing examinations. And just in the last verse, Krishna had started speaking for Arjun. And here also, Krishna is essentially now motivating Arjun to come back to the scene. And just like a friend, he's using these verbiage, this verbiage to do it, and basically give up your weakness and just rise and come. Like strong, just shoulder shaking motivation is what Krishna is doing, and it often works for us when we are demotivated as well. Somebody just coming to us and reminding us of our power, and whether we have it or not, that's irrelevant, but whether we feel that we have it or not, that becomes important, so that can help. So we'll see what happens next later. Take care. Hare Krishna.